what I focus on, the first thing when I build a business plan is to find the problem statement. What problem are you solving? And then what solution do you have for it? And that is where your strategy is built. I worked on a Nigerian startup visa client business plan. They had a business plan, but they brought to me to fix that business plan. In that business plan, it was about the African snacks. The strategy they used over there was that they are trying to fight food security. You do not fight food security with snacks. That too, ethnic snacks.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast experience, and thank you for your attention today. Today, in this episode, I'm going to be talking to an amazing lady. Her name is Sumyia. She is an immigrant entrepreneur, originally from Pakistan, and her business is Savvy Business Plans. And she converts business ideas into viable business plans ready for you to impress lenders and investors. Thank you for honoring us with your presence today, Sumyia.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Awesome. So, I know a little bit about what you do, but before we get into that, the part that I want to get into first is more like your backstory. We are all immigrants living here in Canada, and we would have similar stories, but every single person's own is unique in a way. And so I kind of want to know, what's your origin story? How did you get to Canada?
Okay, yeah. So I was born in Pakistan and then I moved to Saudi Arabia as a kid. My father was working there and I lived there then all my life before moving to Canada. We moved here 4 years ago. It's exactly 4 years, like on 21st. We were settled in Saudi Arabia also. It was good, but the legal rules are kind of in a way that if you lose your job there, you lose your residency. So after living out of our home country for so long, it was not an option for us to move back. So we had our daughter there. So that is what my husband planned, that we will look for permanent residency in Canada. So we did our process and then we arrived in 2019.
Just before COVID.
Right before COVID. I think we just had few months of normal life and then it was COVID.
So in under 4 years, you've been able to start a successful business. What is it in your personal story that gave you the mindset to want to create a business in Canada? Because most people come and they don't think about a business, right? Most people think about having a job, which is good because you need the job to be able to survive, to be able to do what you need to do. But not many people would think about, maybe this thing that I'm good at, I should use it as a business.
So at the back of my mind, I always wanted to have consultancy. So when before moving to Canada, when I was on my last job in Saudi Arabia, the manager asked me that where do you see yourself in 5 years? So very vaguely, I told him that I want to have a consultancy that has something to do with startups. I had no idea what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do, but it was in my mind that I wanted to do something around startups. So that was just vaguely there. Then I moved to Canada and I started looking for jobs also. I worked for 3 months in Amazon as a picking associate. So I did that. And then suddenly there was COVID. My daughter was 3 years old at the time.
So daycare.
And yes, she was not even going to school. I was not, with everything that was happening, I was not comfortable with sending her to daycare.
Yeah.
So I stopped looking for jobs. And then, so I was working with one of my friend on her startup where I did some feasibility and stuff, created a document. So she told me that, you can do this for others also. Just put an ad on KGG. People need this document when they go to banks for the loans. This was something I didn't know because I was new.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that banks here need business plans for loans. So she gave me this idea. Then I worked a bit more on learning how to do it according to what is needed here. I attended some workshops and then I started posting on KGG, Marketplace, etc. I started getting some clients. Then it didn't work well on KGG because I felt that people don't really value what I have to offer there.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my website set and I started networking more with the right people to get right kind of customers. So that is how the business started.
Okay. So was part of your background, in part of your background, were you doing business plans already, or that all started here in Canada?
No, so I had experience in management consultancy.
Okay.
So we were already doing documentations, and my previous employer was also angel investor.
Okay.
So they had entrepreneurs coming in all the time, and we would evaluate their ideas. And so I have been doing that for a long time. Also, in my previous job, that was an investment company. So we used to make investment projects in the form of business plans and then present it to investors so that they can invest in. So I have been doing that as part of my job
Mm-hmm.
and in a different way. But then I had to revamp it and improvise it to make it suitable for Canadian market.
Okay. Did you have a hard time? Because I'm picturing myself if I had to have arrived Canada at the time of just before COVID, and then the challenges of everything happening around that time. How was it possible for you to pivot from that employee status? Are you currently employed, or do you currently work for somebody as well as doing your
Yes, I'm
business?
doing both. Yes.
Okay, so you're doing both and you have kids.
Yes. I have
Where do
one
you
daughter.
find the time to do all of that?
Juggling. Yes. So I have put a lot of efforts into setting up savvy business plans,
Yeah.
a lot of time, effort. So I didn't want to let it go, but my job is also I work as a business advisor where I work with immigrant entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So they are more or less connected. So I love my job also, and I love doing this also. So I didn't want to give up on what I have built from the scratch. So I work evenings, weekends,
Okay. And
lunch
what are some
hours.
challenges that you faced in starting your business?
So some of the challenges, first thing is that when you are new and then there is COVID, it was difficult for me to network, to connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
One of the challenge was that I used to get a lot of clients who were getting loans from BDC, but during COVID, BDC stopped giving loans to startups and they were trying to cater to existing businesses.
Do you know
So
why?
that because they wanted to keep the businesses that are already existing afloat. So they were focusing their resources to them.
Okay.
So that was a bit of setback. And so I tried to find clients in the US. So that was something that I did for meanwhile. Also, the thing is that before COVID, I was only focusing on getting clients from Ottawa.
Okay.
I was meeting in person, coffee shop, library, etc., and meeting them, getting all the details, working on the project. But with COVID came so something that I never thought about. But then I could find clients from Calgary and GTA and the US and all these places. So that was something that was helpful. But yes, the COVID time was difficult. I think it was difficult for a lot of us in terms of mental health also.
Yeah.
So the isolation, moving to a new country, leaving behind your family, friends, your life, everything, and then coming to a new place, and then you are completely isolated. There were curfews and lockdowns, and so it was a difficult time. And then I had a big child. My daughter was 3 years old. She couldn't go out. She couldn't meet anyone. So it was stressful. But yes, it I kept afloat. But yeah, at the back end, it was difficult.
Yeah. And what are some resources that would have helped you, or that did help you at the time, in order for you to then be able to launch your business and continue to make it work?
There was this government program called Digital Main Street.
What's that?
So it was a program that was in collaboration with the government and Shopify, etc. They helped me set up my website.
Okay.
They had other helps also. They helped with marketing, branding also. That was great help. And I was able to use LinkedIn and network with people.
Okay.
So that was helpful, even though we were not meeting people in person, but still connecting in the virtual world was very helpful at that point.
Yeah. I think that's something that even though COVID was terribly bad for a lot of other reasons, it taught us that there are other ways to do things, right? It taught us that, hey, you
Exactly.
don't have to meet people physically to do work. Like at the time, you were only meeting people locally in Ottawa to do work with them. But COVID, the lockdown, it forced us to think outside the box and figure out different ways.
Exactly.
And so in
I
part of the
couldn't
work you
even,
do, yeah, go ahead. Sorry for that.
yeah, I mean, before that, I couldn't even imagine meeting people virtually. I didn't know how to navigate that. But because COVID, it didn't leave us with any other option. So that's all we had.
Exactly what they say about what the necessity is the mother of invention, right? If we don't get to that place where we need to figure out a different way to do things and we don't push ourselves to go and think about that. And so still in line with that, then did you find that the kinds of people who are coming to you now for business plans or the kinds of businesses they're coming to create plans for has shifted after COVID versus before COVID?
So, not really. A lot of times, people who are looking for business loans are mostly physical businesses.
Because the people who need the loans are the ones who would actually need the plans, right?
Yes, these
Okay.
are businesses like restaurants or studios or production facility, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the people who are mostly looking for loans. So the nature of business stays same. But for me, the learning curve was that when I started, I was focusing more on people with ideas only. So I realized that while I enjoyed working on ideas a lot, but it was very difficult for me in terms of time because working on ideas required a lot of time and a lot of brainstorming, and then you reach on some decision, and then you'll do the research and go back and change it because it's not working out, it's not feasible, and it required a lot of time and effort. So that was not aligning with the price point that I had, the time I was supposed to put in. So that is when I realized that my best target market are the people who are already in the business or they know what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So it made my life a lot more easier. So, this is somebody that he will come and they'll say that, okay, I'm going to start this restaurant. These are the equipments I'm going to buy. This is my startup cost. This is what I'm going to sell. And so this, like, the basic things were already there.
Yeah.
So I would work around it. I will build a strategy. I'll build a marketing plan. I'll do my research. But it is still not something working from the scratch because when we are working on more on the mere ideas and somebody who does not have experience in the field, so that goes more into finding the feasibility, and that's a lot more work. So that
Okay.
was the shift. That was my learning curve that I started with something, but then I realized that even though I love to work on ideas, but it's not working out very well for me. So I had to shift.
Okay. So what is something then that people need to know when it comes to wanting to create a business plan? What is something that, let's say there's a person in here in Montreal who wants to open up a restaurant or wants to expand their current restaurant and they come to you. What is something that they need to know?
Yes, so what they need to know is that, for example, that if they are going to move to a new location, so they would need to know that how much rent would be, right?
Mhm.
The they should have the proposal for an equipment, so these are the basic things that I expect people to know.
Okay.
It's mainly the cost and the product that they are going to offer.
Mm-hmm.
I can help in improvising, I can help in adding things to make it more attractive.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I expect people to know that what are they going to offer
Okay.
and what are their main costs.
Okay. So I'm going to throw a scenario out there because I talk to a lot of people. And as you're saying all of that, I'm kind of picturing somebody I've spoken to whose challenge is hey, I want to do this next and I don't know what to do or how to go about it, and you having a solution for that. So without calling names, I'm kind of going to put together a picture of something I see, right? So I spoke to a lady who currently does lots of pastries, a lot of hand-picked food, and she was kind of inspired by Taltis food. I don't know if you remember, Kala actually worked with that. So she was kind of inspired by his story of going on the Dragon's Den and doing that, right? So, but in order to get to the stage of being that person who is going with the product at Dragon's Den, you need to show that you do have the product, you do have the revenues, you do have that. But she's not yet at a level where she has that information or those things or sales and information. Well, she does have sales, but she doesn't have anything formal, right?
Mm.
How does a person like that go from where they are to now creating something that they can actually use to then go and present to an investor who can give them the funds to even go bigger? Because they have the idea, they currently have a few day-to-day clients, and they have the vision of going towards, for example, Taltis food.
Okay. So the thing is that you have an idea, you already have the product. What I focus on, the first thing when I build a business plan is to find the problem statement. What problem are you solving? Okay, so that is what you find out, and then what solution do you have for it? So this is the very first thing, and that is where your strategy is built.
Okay.
So, for example, that I worked on a Nigerian startup visa client business plan.
Okay.
They had a business plan, but they brought to me to fix that business plan.
Okay.
In that business plan, it was about the African snacks, right? But when they got the business plan made, the strategy they used over there was that they are trying to fight food security. So the thing is that you do not fight food security with snacks. That two ethnic snacks, right?
Yes.
So from there, we pivoted the strategy, and what we said that we are working towards the representation of African and Caribbean finger foods and snacks in the North America.
Cool. Okay.
Right. So this is because we get all different kind of, like, we'll get American snacks, we'll get Indian samosas, we'll get different things when we're talking about finger foods and snacks,
Yeah.
but we don't very readily get the African snacks. So that is where we shifted. So we have a point, and that point gets repeated. So when you are meeting your investors, they will look at what are you offering, and why are you offering, when there are probably 20,000 more pastry shops in Montreal.
Right.
Why do you want to have another? So that is where you need to know, why are you there? What is your competitive edge?
Okay.
So it could be that it could be an ethnic based pastries. You can say that we don't have any other pastry shops that cater to this ethnicity, or you can have more inclusive place where you can say that we have pastries like the generic pastries, but we have also to accommodate people with dietary restrictions like vegan or carb free or keto, etc. So that
Yes.
is where you build your story, that is where you build your strategy, and that's what you tell people. That's your selling point.
Okay. And those are things that when people then sit with you, you're able to identify for them to go like, okay, yes, you have a product. Yes, you have a service. Yes, you have a story that you've said for why you have that, but that story is not going to sell. This is the
Yeah,
story that you can, or this is how you
exactly.
should tweak that information so that it becomes an attractive investment for somebody who's going to give you money for it.
Exactly.
Oh,
And also, there's a difference between when you are targeting investors and when you're targeting banks.
yes.
So these are bit kind of two different things. So when we are looking at investors only invest in things that are scalable.
Yeah.
For example, you have a great business, you have a great pastry shop, but it's going to stay one pastry shop forever. So investors will not be interested. But if they see a potential that it can be franchised or it can be grown into multiple multiple shops, or it can have a flagship store and then multiple stores all over the
Yeah.
country, etc. That is what they look at. And another important thing is that we call it total addressable market.
What's that?
So we call it TAM. That is that, let's say that your target market is all of Montreal, the total addressable market. You have a shop in Montreal, so your TAM would be the all of Montreal. And then you have serviceable market. So that is the market out of your total addressable market that will be actually your customer. So, for example, that let's say Ottawa's population is 1 million,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we say that out of 1 million, 1% of population will be our customer. So we know that this is what exactly we are going to target. And then it depends on the investor whether they find it big enough to invest, or it's suitable enough to invest or not. So you get those numbers, and those numbers are basis for your sales assumptions.
Okay.
So it tells you how big your market is.
Hmm. Do you think a lot of people ignore the need of a business plan?
Yes. I meet a lot of people and they say that this is all theory. But sometimes what happens that when I'm doing business plans, we find a lot of things. We learn a lot of things. So for example, I was doing a business plan for a catering company, and while doing the industry research, I got to know that vegan market is going to be $8 billion market in next few years.
Mm-hmm. Why is
So
that?
we found that, and then we went back and then we added vegan options into our menu.
Do you have an idea of why the vegan market is growing that way? Oh,
It is the trend, so it is from the
yeah.
statistics that it is going towards this, and the projections are that it is going to be this big. So
Okay.
if something is going to get this big, we have to move our business around it, and we have to make sure that we are able to cater that market, or otherwise we are going to miss out on 8 billion.
Yeah, that's true. Wow. Okay. That's amazing. So for somebody who's listening right now who might want to contact you to get to work with you, what's the best way to reach you and how can they support you as well?
Thank you so much. So I have a website. It's savvybusinessplans.ca. So I can be reached from there, or I have my Instagram, so LinkedIn, my I use the same name, Sumyia Sheikh, so I can be reached from any of the social media channels or the website.
What is it like
Yes.
working with you?
So we have half an hour discovery call to see how things will go. Sometimes if I'm not sure, I know some people in the bank, so I connect them with them. So they can talk about their idea and see what bank has to say about it,
Mhm.
because I don't find it fair that we work on a business plan, we spend time and money, and then bank doesn't consider it. So banks also have their preferences at times. So what kind of businesses they want. So if something is very general, I know that bank will consider this, so that is fine. But sometimes there are tech-based businesses or platform businesses, etc., that usually banks don't cater. Usually, I mean, I cannot say anything with certainty. Or something is that if person is not sure about their credit score, etc. So I tell them that it's better if you talk to bank first and then come back to me and we can work on the business plan.
Okay. One more question for you. So I know a lot of people then ignore in terms of, because what we do is we help people mainly with the accounting and taxes, right? And I know that's something that a lot of people don't really pay attention to until it gets to a point where the government is like on their neck and then they start to go, it's like, oh, we need to do this. How do you take care of your own stuff in that direction?
So I keep record of things and then I file as freelancer with the accountant. Yes.
All right, perfect. So, for those who have listened and watched so far, all of the information on how to contact Sumyia is going to be in the description below. It is savvybusinessplans.ca. If you're looking to convert your business idea into a viable business plan, or if you have a business idea and you want to then go to the next level so you can be ready to impress investors and lenders, then please go ahead and contact my guest today, Miss Sumyia. She's going to be very willing to assist you with whatever you need in terms of your business plan. Any final words from you, Sumyia?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad I'm so honored to be here with you. And yes, I am here to support the immigrant community, startup community. Even if it's not for the services, I'm happy to advise. I'm happy to talk to if anyone needs to discuss anything.
And that does it for this episode of the podcast, guys. We're going to see you next time. Thank you so much for your attention today.